suppose, so I'd better travel as James McGrath. We've outgrown the passport business, haven't we? No odds either way. You and I are totally unalike, but we'd probably have the same description on one of those blinking things. Height 6 feet, hair brown, eyes blue, nose ordinary, chin ordinary. Not much of this ordinary stunt. Let me tell you that Castle selected me out of several applicants solely on account of my pleasing appearance and nice manners. Jimmy grinned. I noticed your manners this morning. The devil you did. Anthony rose and paced up and down the room. His brow was slightly wrinkled, and it was some minutes before he spoke. Jimmy, he said at last, Stibblitich died in Paris. What's the point of sending a manuscript from Paris to London via Africa? Jimmy shook his head helplessly. I don't know. Why not do it up in a nice little parcel and send it by post? Sounds a damn sight more sensible, I agree. Of course, continued Anthony, I know that kings and queens and government officials are prevented by etiquette from doing anything in a simple, straightforward fashion, hence king's messengers and all that. In the medieval days, you gave a fellow a signet ring as a sort of open sesame. The king's ring passed, my lord, and usually it was the other fellow who had stolen it. I always wonder why some bright lad never hit on the expedient of copying the ring. Making a dozen or so, and selling them at 100 ducats apiece. They seem to have had no initiative in the Middle Ages. Jimmy yawned. My remarks on the Middle Ages don't seem to amuse you. Let us get back to Count Stibblitich. From France to England via Africa seems to be a bit even for a diplomatic personage. If he merely wanted to ensure that you should get £1,000, he couldn't have left it you in his will. He could have left it you in his will. Thank God neither you nor I are too proud to accept a legacy. Stibblitich must have been balmy. You think so, wouldn't you? Anthony frowned and continued his pacing. Have you read the thing at all? He said suddenly. Read what? The manuscript. Good Lord, no. What do you think I want to read a thing of that kind for? Anthony smiled. I just wondered, that's all. You know, a lot of trouble has been caused by memoirs, indiscreet revelations, that sort of thing. People who have been closed as an oyster all their lives seem positively to relish causing trouble when they themselves shall be comfortably dead. It gives them a kind of malicious glee. Jimmy, what sort of a man was Count Stibblitich? You met him and talked to him, and you're a pretty good judge of raw human nature. Could you imagine him being a vindictive old devil? Jimmy shook his head. It's difficult to tell. You see, that first night he was distinctly bland, and the next day he was just a high-toned old boy with the most beautiful manners, overwhelming me with compliments till I didn't know where to look. And he didn't say anything interesting when he was drunk. Jimmy cast his mind back, wrinkling his brows as he did so. He said he knew where the Koh-i-Noor was. He volunteered doubtfully. Oh well, said Anthony. We all know that. They keep it in the tower, don't they? Behind thick plate glass and iron bars, with a lot of gentlemen in fancy dress standing round to see you don't pinch anything. That's right, agreed Jimmy. Did Stibblitich say anything else of the same kind, that he knew which city the Wallace collection was in, for instance? Jimmy shook his head. Said Anthony. He lit another cigarette, and once more began pacing up and down the room. You never read the papers, I suppose, you heathen, he threw up presently. Not very often, said McGrath simply. They're not about anything that interests me as a rule. Thank heaven I'm more civilized. There have been several mentions of Slovakia lately, hints at a royalist restoration. Nicholas IV didn't leave a son, said Jimmy, but I don't suppose for a minute that the Obolovich dynasty is extinct. There are probably shoals of young'uns knocking about, cousins and second cousins and third cousins once removed, so that there wouldn't be any difficulty in finding a king. Not in the least, I should say, replied Jimmy. You know, I don't wonder at their getting tired of Republican institutions, of full-blooded, virile people like that must find it awfully tame to pot at presidents after being used to kings. And talking of kings, that reminds me of something else old Stipletitch let out that night. He said he knew the gang that was after him. There were King Victor's people, he said. What? Anthony wheeled round suddenly. A slow grin widened on McGrath's face. Just a mite excited, aren't you, Gentleman Joe? He drawled. Don't be an ass, Jimmy. You just said something rather important. He went over to the window and stood there looking out. Who is this King Victor, anyway? Demanded Jimmy. Another Balkan monarch? No, said Anthony slowly. He isn't that kind of king. What is he, then? There was a pause, and then Anthony spoke. He's a crook, Jimmy. The most notorious jewel thief in the world. A fantastic, daring fellow, not to be daunted by anything. King Victor was the name he was known by in Paris. Paris was the headquarters of his gang. They got him there and put him away for 7 years on a minor charge. They couldn't prove the more important things against him. He'll be out soon, or he may be out already. My window's not even open and it's really loud. Like, I don't know. They're doing some bullshit to the road. Ugh. I'm sorry. Goddamn. I hope that doesn't come through too much. Do you think Count Stipletitch had anything to do with putting him away? Was that why the gang went for him? Out of revenge? I don't know, said Anthony. It doesn't seem likely on the face of it. King Victor never stole the crown jewels of Czechoslovakia, as far as I've heard. But the whole thing seems rather suggestive, doesn't it? The death of Stipletitch, the memoirs, and the rumors in the papers. All vague but interesting, and there's a further rumor to the effect that they found oil in Czechoslovakia. I've a feeling in my bones, James, that people are getting ready to be interested in that unimportant little country. I'm gonna come back to this later because that is so fucking loud. It's making me kind of crazy, so